Former Plymouth Public Library Director and current America's Hometown Laureates Board President Jennifer Harris, her book of life has multiple fascinating chapters. Jennifer talked with Tiff Phillips about her background, career, and why her life after retirement is busier than ever.
All right, I'm with Jennifer Harris, president of American Hometown Laureates, Inc. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
As always, so good to see you.
Thanks, Tiff.
So I know you're retired, and we usually talk to people who have like really cool, interesting jobs. You have had an interesting job, you continue to have jobs.
Yes.
So since retirement, you haven't really stayed retired.
No. What happened was when I retired from the Plymouth Public Library as the library director, I knew I had to keep busy. So I ran for town meeting. So I am a town meeting member for Precinct 13. Then, obviously, I'm the president of America's Hometown Laureates. I'm also I'm on a task force, an arts and history collections task force for the town hall. So we manage the art shows there. And finally, what I really do on the side is I'm an interim library director and help libraries search for other library directors. So I've done Acton, Kingston, and just recently Wayland.
Oh, wow. So do you sleep, or is that not a...
I'm a good napper.
You're a great napper.
Yes, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up?
Okay, so I'm from the east side of Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh.
And I always wanted to be a librarian. That was from the get-go. In high school, I worked at the local library. And then my father passed away when I was young, but I was still planning to be a librarian and went through Kent State, which at the time, this is in the early 70s. So they had a bachelor program, but I was discouraged from going because they said there were too many librarians, and that changed the whole course of my life. So I ended up going out to the Colorado Rockies and living in a mountain cabin with no running water and electricity.
Oh, wow.
And riding motorcycles across the country with
As one does.
in my 20s.
So you always knew that library sciences. What about it fulfilled you?
So it was not only library science, it was public librarianship, because I always wanted to give to the community. And I think public libraries attract people who either would be social workers or psychologists. And I had a bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology. So, but being in a library, obviously you're dealing with books. And even though a lot of people read ebooks now, books are still really what's important. And that public environment where everyone can come. It's open. It's America's democracy. So it's all kind of built in me. I have worked in several bookstores over the years. So bookstore works for me, or public libraries.
So what were some of the highlights during your tenure at Plymouth Public Library?
Well, I was there for 27 years, of which the majority was as the assistant director, which was the day-to-day operations. I managed, I did a lot of programming, adult programming. So what I did was I handled the facilities. One of the major accomplishments was replacing the roof, HVAC system, and skylight in the last couple years, because the building was 30 years old, even though everyone still thinks of it as the new library.
Yep.
So that was a $3.2 million project. And I did several other construction projects. We had the literacy program, and I created 3 classrooms. But truly, the programming was one of where my heart is. Being involved with the America's Hometown Laureates, I was reviewing some of the poetry programming I had done over the years. And I actually brought Robert Pinsky, who's a 3-time U.S. laureate. I just saw him recently up in Cambridge. He's doing a jazz poem thing with jazz musicians. So I brought him. I brought Dennis Lehane. I also brought a lot of classical music, opera, and jazz. My nephew is a contemporary jazz pianist. So I think the programming to me was just so important.
That's amazing. I feel like in the last 10 years, maybe more, there seems to have been a resurgence of people caring about libraries. Yeah. A lot of that is, I've heard, due to like millennials actually kind of. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think my point is that it's a public space that you can come to and just be. You can do research. You can sit and read. You can find peace. Many people use it for offices. There's a lot of attorneys. Someone will meet halfway. Plymouth is a perfect spot because you've got the Cape and then you have going north, so people meet there. It's a free and open environment and accepting of all ages. And I think ages, we're an aging population. I also believe that reading literacy begins with children coming to story time. So if their parents bring them to story time, they're lifelong lovers of libraries. And I do hear the young adults are reading real books as opposed to ebooks. It's a very different experience, but all important to be reading.
Leaving a job that you absolutely love is a really hard decision. What encouraged you to say, this is the time for me to go?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. I loved that library. That was my second home. That was my 52,000 square foot home for 24/7, and then I had a little cottage on Brant Rock, which I was planning in my retirement to move to Plymouth, and so that was the first step, was being able to move into Sawyer's Reach, which I'm so happy. I have a wonderful condo and a happy home here in Plymouth. So I was planning my future in the last couple of years. Plymouth 400 was coming up. I had already qualified to retire. My age and number of years of service, you get 80%. It's a goal, and I reached it. But I was staying an extra year because of Plymouth 400. Well, you know what happened then. But I had the library lined up to do some incredible programming. And then COVID hit, and it was hard on all libraries. Many directors who were at the age of retirement, it was just the right time. So it was a conflagration of many aspects coming together at the same time. I always thought I'd go out in a big bang with a big party. There were no parties. There was no celebration. But my board of trustees was so kind to me that I was treated very well. And in the end, it was a great decision to move on. And I still love libraries. So,
as we all should. Tell us a little bit about AHL. You're now the president.
Yes.
What is the mission of the organization?
So while I was still the library director, Stephen Cole from Plymouth Development Foundation came to me and said, I'd like to propose having a Plymouth Poet Laureate, which of course I'm going, Poet Laureate in Plymouth, awesome. And then, but it needed the library, either a mayor or the library director to join in on it. So we committed and we created the first Poet Laureate. So once that was done and COVID and all that, and I had retired, then Stephen came back and we ended up saying we need to keep doing this work. So we continue to support the Poet Laureate, where we will be starting the next submission process at the beginning of November of this year. So we're shooting for 2024 in February, March to announce a new one. So, and then poetry throughout the community, it's the arts, it's culture, it's economic development, which is so essential to Plymouth.
Why is it important to shine a light on local poets in the community?
Well, I've been attending the Poetry, the Art of Words Poetry Club, which is the strongest club that's been going on for years. There used to be the Tide Pool Poets, but they kind of timed out. And I believe that it's words and how poets put words together to create a thought or an image for other people. As I'm now reading the Maggie Smith book, who she wrote Good Bones, I'm seeing that there's so much behind, and it's the thought process of how to express oneself. And we all need more of that. It's for our heart and soul.
Mm-hmm. Are you a poet?
I write haiku, but I've actually started to ponder expanding a little bit. I might do a little bit more prose.
So what does the rest of retirement look like for you?
Well, I'll continue with my activities. The interim library director and library searches are fascinating to me because they're other towns that are completely different than Plymouth. So I get a kick, and people actually listen to my opinion, so that's kind of fun, and I get paid for it. So I will continue, maybe one a year. But traveling, I just, for the first time, had my big life adventure to Buenos Aires with my best friend from high school, Amy, and we went for 2 weeks and just had a blast. So I think I will be doing more internationally traveling. And then I have a very strong family connection that we all live in different parts of the country, so that's always part of my routine is traveling to them.
Is Plymouth, you think, like you're here for the long haul?
I do. I love my condo. Anyone who's thinking about, moving into a condo, it's a wonderful experience. The people there are great. I have a swimming pool. So I'm set for like resort living during the summer. And yeah, I'm very happy here. I take walks with friends, the Harbor Walk. I love the Plymouth Harbor Walk. But when I retired, I realized how many connections I had here. And so I've built on that. And I just love it.
Out of all the lives you lived, or all the things that you've done, what do you think has been your greatest accomplishment? What do you think you look back on and be like, oh, I can't believe I did that. That was amazing.
Well, I think more personally to me, it's my family. Because I don't have children myself, but my brother has 2 boys. So my nephews and their children who are just coming, and my mother, who's 100 years old, is still alive in Cleveland. So anyone who thinks that 90 is old, believe me, 100's a whole different ballgame. Think of what it's like to be a good daughter for 100 years. So I think my family and keeping connected the way that we do and supporting each other. And I have loved in life and I have lost, and I just pick myself up and do the next thing. So
That is a perfect place to end. Thank you so much. It is so great to always talk to you.
thanks, Tiff.
Hey friend, thanks for stopping by. If you like this video by the local scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.